I find Ryusui Nanami of Dr. Stone to be a fascinating character. In his own words, he is frequently stated to be the greediest man in the world, yet he's not a bad person. When a character is described as greedy, this is generally a bad thing, but for Ryusui, it's not. I find this contradiction to be very interesting, and that's what we're going to be looking into today, so get excited. In the story of Dr. Stone, all of humanity is mysteriously turned to stone for several millennia. Then eventually, the main character wakes up and decides to basically speedrun technology. It's really fun. After a while, the gang decides to build a ship to sail from Japan to South America, where they will hopefully find the origin of the petrification ray. But to do that, they need someone who actually understands sailing principles. The guy they end up with is Ryusui Nanami, who is described as the spoiled son of the legendary Nanami family who has been sailing ever since middle school. As soon as he is depetrified, Ryusui says how he wants everything in the world, and he's always been like this. In flashbacks, he finds something he wants and doesn't stop until he gets it. This often included dragging his brother Sai around to figure out the math required. He goes to great lengths to get what he wants, and he's also good at working around problems. In one flashback, his impressive allowance was dramatically shortened, though still absurdly large, and he worked with his butler Francois to figure out how to be able to still get what he wanted. He says how he desires all, and then puts in the work to make that possible. Additionally, his desire isn't limited to himself. He wants to live his best life, and for others too as well. Having him care about other people's desires rather than purely his own makes him a much more endearing character. Another one of Ryusui's catchphrases is, "Desire is noble." At least that's how it's translated in the manga. In the anime, it's translated as "greed equals justice." I'm not sure which is the more accurate translation, but I think that desire is noble gets the idea across a little better. Ryusui's greed could also be referred to as ambition. There's nothing wrong with wanting things, and he goes about it in a noble manner. He wants a lot of great things and puts in the work to make them a reality, and he never tramples others in the process. Desire only really becomes problematic when it becomes all-consuming or ends up hurting other people. Both of these things Ryusui avoids. While the Kingdom of Science is building their rocket to go to the moon, they're also deciding who the crew of astronauts is going to be. As the pilot of the group, Ryusui is the natural choice. And he's very excited about this because who wouldn't want to go to the moon? But as the launch day approaches, Ryusui realizes that there actually is a better person for the job. He talks with Senku and they end up reviving Stanley to be the pilot. And of course Ryusui was upset, but he took it with grace, and I found this to be a very poignant scene. He put the mission above his personal desires. When it came down to it, he prioritized what was best for the mission in the Kingdom of Science over what was preferable for him. And I thought that was really cool. And later, when he does end up going into space to give the astronauts a replacement rocket piece, he stays in the rocket while the others go onto the lunar surface. His response is something along the lines of, "Yeah, I'd like to play all the parts if that was an option, but someone needs to stay on the ship, and that should be my job." He's never ungrateful, only constantly striving for improvement. The reason Ryusui is such an interesting character is because of the dissonance. Greed is generally a bad thing, but with Ryusui it's not. There's a contrast between what you would expect and what is, and that contrast is interesting. Senku says, quote, "It's pretty simple, really. He just doesn't want to give up on anything, not on himself and not on humanity," end quote. Ryusui's drive to accomplish things is interesting, and his methods add depth. We've seen plenty of characters whose desire overrides everything else, so they end up ruining a bunch of people's lives, so someone with that similar setup but not crossing those lines is a breath of fresh air. I think Ryusui is a fantastic character and a fantastic story, so yeah, I would highly recommend checking out the manga or the anime. So yeah, thanks for watching.